In recent years, cigarette consumption has decreased severely, but decades of noir detectives, Tarantino films, and Tumblr aesthetics have solidified their existence in the artistic world. In the world of movies and books, and again, black and white photos in front of brick walls with existential quotes superimposed, cigarettes will never go away. And this is for one simple reason. They just look cool. I mean, who wouldn't want to look like Mia Wallace or Humphrey Bogart or these handsome people? Nothing personifies the hard-boiled noir detective like a burning cigarette. But cigarettes and art are not just a matter of aesthetic alone. Aside from looking cool, they also serve a thematic purpose. Generally, one should consider the dangers of cigarettes when considering what they could mean in a film. They could give you cancer, they can shorten your life expectancy, they can give you a series of lung diseases. As a result, we associate certain smokers in films with a level of badassery and a lack of regard for quote-unquote rules. It also helps that soldiers used to be supplied cigarettes, which puts the image in our mind of Vietnam or World War II. This makes it extremely convenient to characterize someone by simply placing a cigarette in their hand. Additionally, since this tough smoker look is generally used to make men seem more masculine, seeing a woman smoke in a film shows that, despite delicate stereotypes, this character has an edge to her. More than explaining a character's behavior or demeanor though, a cigarette can also explain what's going on in a character's mind. For instance, in The Catcher in the Rye, 16-year-old Holden Caulfield smokes more cigarettes than you can count on your fingers. He knows how bad they are for him, and at one point even admits that he needs to stop, but he continues to excessively smoke. Going back to the idea of disregard, I believe that the gratuity of Holden's habit explains better than words can that he is done with society. He would rather give himself lung cancer and die than live in a world full of phonies. This exact method is also used in the renowned Casablanca, where we see Rick Blaine, played by none other than Humphrey Bogart, whose cynicism after being left by his one love is exemplified by the gin he drinks and, more primarily, the cigarettes he smokes. A noteworthy case to look at would be the series Twin Peaks. This early promotional photograph shows the series protagonist Dale Cooper holding a cigarette. In addition to the trench coat, this gives him the aesthetic of a stereotypical hard-boiled detective who's tough and cynical. Now, anyone who watches the show may be taken aback by this photo, as the character never once touches a cigarette. I believe that this is because once production began, the show's creators David Lynch and Mark Frost realized that this did not fit his character at all. It's a cool, interesting aesthetic that's admittedly hard to get tired of, but Cooper is not the typical hard-boiled detective. He's happy and lighthearted, keeping no secrets and teaching everyone his methods of seeing the world in a brighter light.
Give yourself a present.
Cigarettes are for the dark and gloomy-minded, and Cooper is without a doubt one of the brightest characters ever put on screen. The solution to the issue? Instead of a cigarette vice to complement his coffee, give him pie.
This must be where pies go when they die.
But cigarette meaning goes beyond even the mere concept of cigarettes themselves. The way a cigarette looks can also affect what we think of a character. In a world obsessed with perverting everything into something sexual, cigarettes have had a hard time avoiding phallic accusations, and as a result, filmmakers have used this perversion to their advantage. A key example to explain this is the legendary opening scene of *Inglourious Basterds*. Christoph Waltz's Hans Landa pulls out this comically enormous pipe and proceeds to smoke it in front of his host, who, up until then, has been smoking an average-sized pipe. Despite the dialogue that gives us context, this "my pipe is bigger than yours" mindset, which was even explained by Tarantino himself,
"My pipe is bigger than yours,"
immediately asserts Landa as the dominating figure in this scene. In Jean-Luc Godard's Breathless, we see a man imitating a hard-boiled detective, trying to mimic in real life his on-screen idol, the one and only Humphrey Bogart. Michel copies Bogart's clothes, mannerisms, and smooth talk, but when it comes time for the slick, classy cigarette, he smokes this goofy-looking chode of a cigarette, which makes his smooth talk sound sarcastic, his nice clothes look tacky, and his mannerisms seem forced. Overall, he's seen as a wannabe who can never become the idolized version of himself he strives to achieve. Now, consider Wolverine from the X-Men franchise. He's yet another example of that Rick Blaine, Holden Caulfield, done-with-the-world type melancholic character. As a result, he's given something to smoke, but it is not a cigarette. If Logan were to smoke cigarettes, he would probably look like some trailer trash character that always gets in bar fights. No, Wolverine is more than a man. he has an adamantium skeleton, regenerative abilities, and retractable claws. He deserves something far more masculine and dominating to smoke, as he himself is more masculine and dominating than everyone else he encounters. Thus, the cigar is perfect. All of this characterization is explained by the mere presence of a cigarette. This eliminates the need for exposition, and it adds another layer to a character, because a cigarette is really an extension to a character's body. Imagine Wolverine without the iconic cigar. He would still be intimidating, but he wouldn't quite be the Wolverine we all know. Without cigarettes, we wouldn't as easily learn about the nerd, or the brute, or the existential character who verbalizes our innermost fears about the world. The next time you watch a film, pay attention to who smokes, what they smoke, and how they smoke, and you'll learn a lot more than you initially thought was presented. Thank you.